All right, welcome. It's Marcus with Dynasty Football Dads. We are going to be doing some more Superflex content, where to draft some of these players. First of all, we're giving away a Jerry Jeudy free signed jersey. All you have to do is be a subscriber. When we hit 1K, we'll be giving that away for free. All right.
Now turn up.
So, Superflex. We talked about the beginning of the draft. Picks basically 101 to 106. What do you do? Even 101 to 104. Where are we at? So again, a lot of quarterbacks should be taken off the board, and we start getting into some of these running backs. That's Najee Harris. That's Travis Etienne. That's Javonte Williams. That's right into this 104 to 106, 107 range. And honestly, 4 QBs and 3 running backs should be the first 7 picks off the board. I don't see Mac Jones being a top 5 NFL draft pick. I know there's a bunch of smoke screens saying, oh, maybe he's going to the 49ers. Maybe Kyle Shanahan was at his workout. They're watching him. They're putting more attention to him. But honestly, I think that still Mac Jones is going to be kind of that in between the 10 to 15 range, unless a team trades a bunch of capital to try to move into that back half of the 8, 9, 10 range. But anyway, so realistically, 4 QBs, 3 running backs. Now we're at pick 8 and on. Where are we going to go? So 8 to, let's say, early second. What is our kind of order? What should we do draft-wise? Honestly, it's fairly simple. It's fairly similar. I don't know if I say similar weird or not. I think some people say I do. It's maybe my Minnesota accent type thing. But it's very close to what we do in 1 QB leagues with an earlier pick. Trevor Lawrence, of course, is not going to be there. But you're going to have wide receivers and Kyle Pitts staring you at the face saying, okay, well, these are the next players going off the board. And Jamar Chase, Devontae Smith, those 2, maybe even Rashad Bateman, depending on his landing spot, are the next 3 picks that we're going to be seeing off the board, 8, 9, 10, and also Kyle Pitts. And that's where we kind of see, again, 8, 9, 10-ish range. We start getting into the back half of the first, and we go, okay, those picks are kind of easy, and I've talked and explained about why I think that I'd rather have at least those 2, potentially those 3 wide receivers over Kyle Pitts. But then we have the Rondale Moores, Jalen Waddles, and Mac Jones. Where are we going to put those? And Mac Jones would be ahead of Jalen Waddle, ahead of Rondale Moore. But, I mean, it's a close situation. It ultimately depends on, again, team need. These players are very, very similar to each other, and so I wouldn't mind if a really QB-needy team that was in the playoffs, because they have a late first probably, if maybe they traded in and they needed another quarterback. Let's say you had early second, you move back into the first because you traded so you need 2 quarterbacks. I wouldn't mind that because honestly, Mac Jones, his fantasy production is going to be less than probably, or his upside at least is going to be less than the other 4 quarterbacks because he's just not mobile. I mean, he runs a 4.8 40, and I mean that's giving him a little bit of grace, but 4.8 40, and so he throws really well. But I mean, you're looking at his upside is Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins, not a mobile quarterback, but can move within the pocket a little bit and is a really good passer. But ultimately, where's Mac Jones going to go? Where's his offensive line going to be? I mean, is he going to be under pressure a lot? So ultimately, you're looking at a player, again, that I think, I do really like him. He's the last of the quarterbacks that I think I would take for a while. I mean, we're looking at the next quarterback is probably Kyle Trask, maybe Newman. I mean, there's a couple quarterbacks those are really shot in the dark ones. I mean, I'm looking at those at 3rd round. I mean, there's not very many 2nd round quarterbacks, dynasty fantasy football wise, that I'm going to take. So this is the point where do you need yourself a wide receiver or do you need yourself a quarterback? Because Rondale Moore, Jalen Waddle, Mac Jones, that is the group and that's the category of where I'm looking at. And also know where you're at. If you have another pick coming up in the early second, know that you can draft Mac Jones. Maybe you get one of those 2 wide receivers, but if you don't, there is a ton of wide receivers. And my biggest strategy from late first even to mid-second, there's 7, 8 wide receivers that are going to be potentially a really good dynasty fantasy football producers. And that's why I think wide receivers are going to be slowly shifting away I mean, I've already ranked wide receivers lower than a lot of different people. And number one reason for it is there's a lot of quantity. So, I mean, there might be a lot of demand for wide receivers, but there's a lot of quantity out there. So there's a lot of people that can draft wide receivers. And if you have 2-3 picks, like you can draft 3 second-round wide receivers and you can be fine at that position because one of those is going to hit and end up being Brandon Ayuk, they might be Michael Pittman Jr., and then there might be like the Bryan Edwards or something like that, or Denzel Mims, where they might not perform right away. So you have to understand that if you have a couple of these picks, you can pick Amon-Ra St. Brown, you can pick Elijah Moore, you can do Terrace Marshall, who again ran 4.3840, just like Jamar Chase, his teammate at LSU. I'm trying to think of other wide receivers off the top of my head. I'm just trying to think. There's a couple other ones. Why am I blanking? Tylan Wallace. I mean, there's like 6 or 7 wide receivers in that tier, and draft capital is going to depend a lot of it because if we see these guys in the second and third rounds in the NFL draft, then we know that their capital will be definitely their draft stock will stay here at this like late first, early second. Most of these tier 2 wide receivers are going to be early second. So that is ultimately why Superflex. Jamar Chase should not be picked in the top 7. Devontae Smith should not be picked in the top 7 because ultimately, if you have a top 6 pick, hopefully you have a second rounder or you can trade something to get into that second round because that's where the difference between Jamar Chase and like, let's just say off the top, Kadarius Toney. The difference fantasy-wise may not be a ton. Maybe you have Jamar Chase that's wide receiver 10 and Kadarius Toney that's wide receiver 22 or something like that. But the difference between your running back you're getting there, like a Najee Harris or maybe like a Travis Etienne versus like a Michael Carter, might be running back 10 versus running back like 35. And in fantasy football wise, that's a huge difference, and that is why you need to draft these quarterbacks because Superflex is important. It demands that you need to do quarterbacks. And people are like, well, I want the Dak, I want the Russell Wilson, I want the Tom Brady's that you can get in the 3rd, 6th round. Those quarterbacks don't happen often. Usually, stats bear out that most successful quarterbacks come from the 1st round, and it's not always the 1st overall pick. A lot of times, it's the 2nd or 3rd, 4th quarterbacks taken off the board. Look at last year. Justin Herbert is better than Joe Burrow fantasy production-wise right now, and honestly, I'd rather have Herbert over Joe Burrow because we know the health history right now of Joe Burrow, and we know that Herbert can do it. He can do it. He's performed. Look at a couple years ago. We had Josh Allen, not the 1st quarterback taken off the board. Deshaun Watson, again, not the 1st quarterback taken off the board. And of course, we all know Mr. Pat Mahomes was not 101 in the NFL draft. So we look at some of these quarterbacks that are moving, like you need the Trey Lances, the Justin Fields, the Zach Wilsons, because one of those guys are probably going to hit and be the next big thing. But that's one of those things is you just got to put your chips, as many chips as you can in different piles, because ultimately, like 1 or 2 of those quarterbacks are probably going to bust out and not be much. And so you're just going to have to kind of figure it out because NFL GMs that get paid tens of millions of dollars still get this wrong. They still get the wrong QB. So and I don't get paid tens of millions of dollars, and I know you guys watching are not getting paid tens of millions of dollars because you wouldn't be watching this video if you were. But that is one of the things is we're going to get it. People are going to get it wrong. We just have to put our odds where the best chances are. Okay. So we're going to go into the mid and late 2nd round in the next video, but this is Marcus Dynasty Football Dads. We do daily Dynasty videos. Jerry Jeudy signed jersey. Man, we're cruising here. We're out 1K, and then we'll get that off. All right. See you tomorrow. Peace out.
Now turn up.